My guest today is Rusty Bowers. He is the founder of Bozeman Innovation Academy, a K-8 Acton Academy affiliate in Bozeman, Montana. I had the opportunity to meet Rusty in person when I visited Montana last spring and was just excited to see what he's building in Bozeman with learner-driven education. Of course, Bozeman Innovation Academy, again, an Acton Academy affiliate, part of the global Acton Academy network of now more than 300 schools around the world, serving thousands of learners. And Rusty opened his school last fall with, I guess it was 5 students. Now you've nearly doubled to 9 students this year, just opening your new academic year. So already seeing, again, nearly double the growth. Clearly lots of demand for your program there. So Rusty Bowers, welcome to the LiberatED podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
It's great to have you here. I'd love to start, Rusty, with a little bit of your background because you were a public school teacher for over a decade before you decided to leave and eventually become a school founder. So tell us a little bit about your reflections of your experience as a public school teacher.
Yeah, it's funny. I go through this story in my mind quite a bit, but it really starts back when I was 20 years old. I was actually going to Montana Tech, which is a school in Butte, and I was going to be a computer science major. And randomly, got offered a coaching position to coach offensive line for the Three Forks Wolves, which is a small Class B school here in Montana. So I was 20 and I got offered a coaching position at a varsity level, and I was like, dang, okay, I'll take that. And coaching that year was amazing. I really got to see the power of kids and the power of influence. And that really changed my whole trajectory after that season. I changed my degree, went to Montana State University here in Bozeman, got my education degree. Small Class C school, and I was the only high school math teacher at the school. And I loved it. It was like a sink or swim scenario, and I swam really well, and the kids really liked me. But right away, it was, man, I can't be teaching these lessons out of the book. Like I'm looking at this glossed over look at my kids as I'm going through the examples and doing these horrible worksheets that come with it. So I started making my own things. It led me to my master's in math ed. But then I wanted to grow from there. I wanted to go to a bigger school. I didn't realize, but I'm climbing that like educational ladder, right? So I went to a bigger school in Montana, Belgrade High School, Class A school. Now I'm one of 6 math teachers in our math department. And so I realized, with all due respect, kind of the ignorance in math education, like where our teachers are and really how they stick to lessons and not have this kind of open mind like I did. It was eye-opening to help kids. Like, let's change the way we're teaching because we're just losing kids, they're falling through the cracks. And so it was a real good experience at Belgrade. But I learned about pockets of excellence, right? I learned about those teachers that do a great job in one year and make a good impact, but then the kids just go to the next teacher down the line and potentially lose that impact, right? So I didn't want to be this pocket of excellence type teacher. So I wanted to make a bigger influence. And this has always been my drive, I guess, is just making an influence in kids' lives, I guess. So I got my admin degree at MSU again. And then that led me to go to Fort Benton, Montana. I became a high school, middle school principal. I was still teaching math. I was the tech director for the full district, and I was still coaching like football and track and doing the whole thing. Loved being a principal, made a lot of changes and a lot of great things, I feel like, at Fort Benton, but realized really that the system is the problem. It's kind of like I've heard the scenario, where if you ever go into a restaurant to eat, but then you walk into the kitchen and you see how they slaughter the meat and how nasty they're like prepping, they keep the kitchen clean, and you just see the reality of a restaurant, you're kind of like, I don't want to eat here anymore. And that kind of became my experience with education. I just kind of saw how teacher unions have this good and really bad effect on change, how school board members, that's a whole thing. So just the whole, like, really, and teachers in general, sticking to their guns about what they're comfortable with teaching and not really being open-minded about, hey, am I really making an impact? That's a hard change to make. And so all this going against the wall, if you will, just kind of made me lose interest and burn out, if you will. So I have a family trade of doing flooring. So I got out of education. I just told my wife one day, I'm like, I don't want to be a principal anymore. I just don't really want to be back in public ed. And that was a big family shift for real. But yeah, we moved back to Bozeman, Montana, and I just started working on my own, independent contractor. And then I just kept dreaming though. I'm like, I wonder what it would be like to like create this amazing education model where you could really impact every single kid, like really do it. And that's what led me to the Acton thing. And it gave me confidence to go, you know what? This is actually what I've been searching for. I have the confidence I could start something like this. And so I took the leap of faith, and here I am on starting my second year with 9 kiddos and just creating a really cool model.
Yeah, I want to dig into Acton in just a minute, but I'd love to ask Rusty, were you alone? Did you feel like there were other educators like you who also were disillusioned with the system, but maybe they just, couldn't take the leap. Maybe they didn't, have something to fall back on outside of teaching. And so they just kind of stuck it out. I guess, were you alone in your desire for change, or were there others like you?
Hmm. There was others like me. My circle was full, especially when I was a math teacher. I got to be part of amazing teacher development projects for the state of Montana and our OPI department, and I became kind of like I became part of projects like Stream and whatnot that really taught teachers to teach. So I was with like-minded people, and the fact that we wanted to make education better. But I think what it hit me, I don't know how to explain it. At the time, I didn't realize I was going to bounce myself out of the system, because I think everybody's in that paradigm of what education is. It's kind of, these are our tools. It's the way we have to think. Let's think with, I don't know, in a box, if you will. And I was thinking outside the box all the time, and I guess it got me out. But I think I was with people that didn't think outside the box like that. I think they were still within the whole bureaucracy of school and the whole 30 years to get your teacher retirement. And, you got family insurance now. And you know what I mean? I think they're not thinking past that.
Yeah, yeah. So you were really the one thinking much more innovatively, and not yet knowing that you were going to become a school founder, but really just feeling like this
Yeah.
wasn't the right place for you. So, how did you discover Acton?
Well, I was in Bozeman here. I started, when I had this call to action, I started dreaming about this school environment, and I wanted to create my own, because I'm like, I can't find anything that really is satisfying this want that I have. And I kept listening to people, by the way, for years that were always on this, like Tom Billy with Impact Theory, even like Oprah Winfrey with Super Soul Sunday. Like I would always listen to these people who have made it in life, and they're telling their stories of their struggles. But the common thread was like, take the leap of faith and just believe it can happen, right? So I was actually wanting to live that path. And that's really gave me the courage to say, I don't need to be a principal. I can see another path that my family can survive. But yeah, I didn't really realize that I was going to create something later. But it's faith, really, is what it is.
And then did you stumble upon Acton Academy
Yeah.
in a web search, or did you hear about them? I guess
Yeah,
where
so
did that come?
it's funny. The work I was doing, I do flooring work. I'm a flooring
Yeah.
installer, and I get all dirty and all that and sweat a lot. But I have this lady. She owns a wedding venue here in Bozeman, and I was doing a flooring job for her. And she asked me, because we've had conversations. She's very interested in education as well, so we've had really cool, deep conversations. But she's the one that said, have you ever heard of the Acton Academy? And I was like, what is that? And she's like, just kind of gave me a 2-sentence thing, what she knew. And it was enough for me to go Google it. And once I watched the little intro videos and really got what they're about, it was just this, like, every word was just music, heaven in my ears. And I was just blown away.
What was it about that, whatever, those two sentences she shared
So
and then the video? What really captivated you?
that's a good question. I can't tell you what in my memory, I just remember, have you heard of Acton Academy? And it was like this, like, mental note of like, you got to go check that out. but our conversations were always geared about how to make schools better, you know. And this lady I was talking to, it was mostly complaining about the whole political side of school, you know what I mean? So I think it was more this like approach of not the political side, you know, here's this model, this grassroots thing that's not tied to any kind of political tie of any type. And that was really attractive to me. When I found Acton, they're polished. They have this standard of excellence that I thought was like way beyond. Because at the time, I'm thinking like I can make my own school, but the level of excellence that Acton had, and they talked about in all their videos, I was like, okay, well, why do I have to reinvent the wheel? In fact, their level of excellence is way better than what I would have initially, you know, had come up with, I think. So I just loved it. I loved the whole. I believe that kids can learn independently, and I loved the. Actually, I was really curious and kind of frustrated with the Acton thing that a guide like me, who's not a teacher, we're guides, cannot answer questions directly. And that actually baffled me because I was coming from the education world, and that's all we do is answer questions like as soon as one comes up. We want to be like question solvers all the time, you know. So it was a real struggle, and I liked knowing that that was going to be something I had to like work through.
So from that video and exploring the Acton Academy website, did you immediately decide to apply to the network
Yeah,
to be
pretty
a
much.
founder? Okay. And
Like
then
when
what
you
was
like I met my wife, right? First scene there is when those like, oh my God, this woman is beautiful. There's something about her. When I watch those videos, I'm telling you, the words were just like making me like goosebump and kind of like
Mm.
just hair standing on. It was hitting me in my core. So I I don't even know if there was like a day that passed. I'm sure I might have talked to my wife about it. But I'm just like, you know what? I want to start applying for this thing and went through the questions.
So you applied, you were accepted into the Acton Academy Founder Network. How long from that acceptance to launch did it take for you?
So my situation was kind of crazy. I applied and it took me quite a while to apply. I'm guessing, I can't remember exactly, it was a few years ago, probably a couple months though, to put this whole application together. There's three
Mm.
steps to the audition process. And then I got accepted. But then I got an email saying that there's an Acton Academy in Bozeman at the time, that I was unaware of, didn't know that. And they told me that there's a 25-mile radius rule. So you
Mm.
can't start a new Acton within 25 miles of another one. They told me I couldn't start it. And I was like, oh, like I was invested. I was mentally. So I talked to the lady that owned it. They were having some problems with their Acton. In fact, her and this other lady that was a guide had a splitting. The school's going different ways. They're not really an Acton anymore, but it's preventing me from getting an Acton. So I was actually really upset. And I kind of put it away for a while. But then I would say like it took me about another year to realize that I can actually, Acton would let me sit out a full, I think it was a full 2 years to let this other Acton get its, you know, its footing and its own momentum before I came in. So they made me wait. And at that time it was okay, but I was actually kind of like sore about it. I was like, you can't make me not do the school I want. Like, this is awesome. But anyways, they let me have it. And as far as like the process goes, when you apply and you get accepted, it's fast. Like you just get part of the network, you get the resources, you get plugged into owner and guide meetings like this. And the support network is amazing. I mean, you get to have zone, you're part of a zone and you have zone leaders. You have people you can ask questions to. You have a huge Google Drive folder of so many amazing resources and a playbook they call it the Acton playbook. And if you don't know what to do, just follow the playbook. And it's laid out beautifully. So really anybody with a passion, you don't even necessarily need an education background. You just need to trust in the process. Anybody can start an Acton Academy with the resources they have. It's great.
Amazing. And so I know there's lots of micro schools sprouting in the greater Bozeman area. I was able to visit several of them, but you're the only Acton in Bozeman at the moment. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
And
So, sorry.
well, and the funny turn of life is we got a new building this year. We moved to a full house. We have a huge yard. We're right on a KE, which is a very active road here. So it's great, like leveled up. And the owner that owns this building that we're leasing it from is the lady who originally started the Acton Academy.
Oh,
So
wow.
we had talked, and she even her boys go to my school here now. And, it was this really
Oh,
nice
wow.
combination of how it all came together.
Full circle.
Yeah.
That's really, really great. So you opened last fall of 2023, with 5 students, including your 2 children. And
Right.
I'd love to just hear your perspective as a parent, because you clearly were interested as a teacher and an entrepreneur in creating a school, but also this lens of learning through your children's eyes. What did you want different for their education?
I just know as a teacher, again, I taught high school math. So I'm going to answer it this way first. I just know in high school, and then also as a principal, I could grab pretty much any sophomore, junior, senior in high school and just be like, hey, just curious, what's your plans after school? What are you going to do after you graduate? And I don't know the numbers. I would put it at like 85% of them were like, I don't know what to do. I don't know, I just want to get out of here. And it
Mm,
started hitting me. It's like, what are we doing here? Like, we make the kids sit down, do this. Everybody's doing the same thing. You know how it is. Like, we're keeping that bottom up, and kids are getting lost. I knew it in my own teaching. Like, I was a good teacher, but I think because of the whole setup and our expectations of kids, really, I was just like, a kid would do my homework problem in class in 5 minutes and then sit there for 25 minutes because I didn't have anything else for them to do, or I'd offer another project, but they'd be like, nah, I don't want to do that. And it was like, well, just sit there and be quiet and don't be a problem. Right.
yeah.
And I knew that, like, our expectation was like, what are these? And then we expect them at 18 to know what's up. So I just wanted my kids to have more of a focused experience where they can actually be supported in an environment that's nurturing them 100% of the time, where we put them on a hero's journey. When I found this terminology, it wasn't natural to me at the time, but like, to know that I could put them in this storyline, like a hero's journey, where they can start to understand their own problems in life, where they can actually start to be independent learners on their own. They're holding each other accountable, and other kids, like, man, those are things that I see our young adults and even our adults today not have very good skills at doing. And so when I found out about the Acton, I was like, this is going to be great. My kids will be awesome. I will say, as a parent, it is one of the toughest things to be a parent guide, because when you're a guide, my job is really to step back and let the learning tribe that's getting formed become strong through challenges, through actual, like, people blowing up and having problems. And my son happened to be one of the most emotional blow up kids there is in our school. So it's hard to watch that and not jump in to be a parent and like start lecturing my son about how he's acting or the choice he made. So instead of letting him be on his own journey and learning through the Acton process of reflection and through Socratic discussion and the other kids, I would like jump in and be a parent, and I would like, and I hated that. So it was this weird, like, how do I do this thing? So even as our parents who aren't guides all the time, I talk to them all the time about, like, let your kids struggle a little bit, or, let them voice what they're thinking, and really, view them as this amazing genius that they are, instead of just your son or daughter, and you're the parent who gets dominion over them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so how do you talk to prospective parents who are interested in enrolling their children at your school if they're used to the sort of conventional classroom model? How do you describe Bozeman Innovation Academy and
It's
the
tough to just,
educational model?
if they don't have a visual, it's really tough, because what comes out is like a lot of words like freedom, because what we say is we're creating this environment that's really designed to help every kid become this independent learner, and really to inspire their own, like, creative thinking. And in those words, I think when people think, oh, my son's going to be creative now, it's kind of like, uh-oh, right? Where's the control on that?
Mm,
And where's the teachers? How are you teaching classes? So I feel like the spotlight on academics has been about grades forever. Like, the only thing we show on school when they're done is a transcript that has letters and numbers on it. So all we care about is our kid, like, are they going to be okay in math, reading, writing, spelling, and all that stuff? And that's the main concern. And when I try to describe it as like, the kids have choice and they have autonomy in what they're going to learn for the day. We have hands-on quests where the kids are interactive. And they're really integrating science and history and writing and all our quest work we do. I think it's still hard for them to see what it is. And it really, in those words, it describes our day to day, but it doesn't describe like the heart of what we're doing. And really, it's the magic of the kids in the everyday life of them learning and experiencing how to work with other people, and how to, like, when somebody's not doing something you don't like, how do we handle that appropriately and respectfully, and just seeing them struggle like that. So I always throw those nuggets in there too. It's really character development that makes Acton top notch, like above and beyond better places.
And then I imagine there's still parents who want to have a sense that my child is going to be progressing academically, that there's going to be both sort of academic success and creative success and self-actualization and all of that. So what do you say to them?
Yeah, and that's hard because Acton, by the way, does not tote any of their, like, they don't speak highly of any kind of ACT scores that kids have taken or like college entrances, you know, although there'd just be a list of all this great stuff that kids are doing. But really, it's about creating this full being that when they do actually graduate, they're actually on a path of life that they're curious about and they're passionate about. And that could be anything. So that is how you can kind of start it, but that doesn't answer the academic, doesn't satisfy that. But the thing is, really what we say is we preach and we have the systems for learning and that core learning skill, and we have badge plans that keep your kid motivated and know the end goal. But they got to learn how to learn on their own. They are learning, although academics is not the main focus of our school. It's not like come to Bozeman Innovation Academy and your child will go to Yale, or I guarantee they're going to get to an Ivy League school. It's not like that. We're not a
Which they
prep school.
may, but it's not.
They might if that's on their
Yeah,
path,
it's
right? If
not
that's what, yeah, they may
their
absolutely. And
sole
kids
end.
are
Yeah,
100%.
yeah,
And kids are maxing out ACT and SAT
yeah,
scores.
yeah,
And it's purely because of we don't create this huge focus like in school. It's about grades because grades are also the control of a traditional school of behavior and all that. So for us, it's just like, guys, you push yourself, you get through this core learning and you're learning on your own and you're curious and you can learn on your own for anything. Like, we're not throttling you at all. And the software is mastery level software. So the kids have to learn the material instead of just
yeah.
like passing them on because Billy's a nice kid and he doesn't cause a problem in my classroom. So they're really learning. And I feel like kids are just more advanced because they are learning. They're actually like, they're setting their goals and
Yeah.
they're holding themselves accountable and not just like, oh, good, the teacher didn't tell me to do anything right now. I'm just going to take it off.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're a mixed age K-8 micro school at the moment with plans to grow. Again, you've almost doubled in a year in your beautiful new space. What is attracting parents to Bozeman Innovation Academy? Are they thinking about something alternative kind of right out of the gate before kindergarten? Or have they reached a kind of an inflection point in a traditional school where it's just not working? What's that blend like?
It's both. I do have a lot of parents starting young in the Acton model. Really, I'm going to be a pre-K to a high school program. And so I had a lot of parents reaching out for that pre-K. But there's a lot of Montessori's here in Bozeman. There's over 20 Montessori's in Bozeman with other micro schools. So that level is kind of diluted. There are parents that have heard of Acton. They have friends that know of an Acton Academy or whatever, and they've heard of it. So some parents are reaching out because they've heard of Acton. But I would say this, I'm getting more interest now because I have an elementary studio. So that's for my 7 through 11-year-olds. And then I just this year, new to us is our middle school studio. And right now I have 3 middle school kids age 12 to 14. So as you can imagine, middle school is a huge pain point that parents are aware of. And they know that middle school is really like the beginning of the end, if you will, you know what I mean? So I know that there's a lot of interest at that level, but really in the elementary level, parents, I feel like, are trying traditional schools. They're in public schools, but their kid is just not happy, coming home and just not motivated. What parents say to me a lot is their kid lost that magic in their eye. They're not fun, curious beings anymore. They're just kind of like life sucked out of them, and it's happening so much at this early level. It's sad to me, to be honest with you. So here's another interesting fact. My elementary of 6 kids are all boys, by the way. So imagine that kind of energy at our in our house here. But look at that little trend. It's a small sample size, but I mean, I think that boy energy today's age is just with technology, maybe, and the fact that we're just getting inundated with information more than we ever have. I think kids are just more squirrely, if you will, or don't want to sit down and be told what to do as much. And so I think that they have struggles in school, whether it's a discipline or they're getting labeled with ADHD. I have some parents that are like, my child's starting to get a label and I don't want that. And I think that's huge for a parent.
So Montana is starting to expand some school choice policies. Programs are really tiny at the moment. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, there's an ESA program that's just focused on students with special needs, sort of a small program enabling those families to choose an option other than a public school if they want. There's still a lot of interest in expanding school choice in Montana as there is across the country. What is your sense about school choice policies in the state and the ability for these policies to expand access to innovative programs?
I think it's beautiful that parents have more options in today's world. 100%. In my mind, I wish that their tax money, a parent's tax money, can follow them and they can have a direct choice of where that money should go for their kid. And I think that's the ultimate goal, isn't it? For everybody to get to that kind of level. Here in Montana, we have charter schools. That's something new that's happening. And so people have asked me that a lot too. And from what I understand, and I'm not a charter school expert by any means, but what I understand is it's just an extension of a public school that's doing different things, or at least has to follow a lot of that federal requirements and look like a traditional school. It's not the answer. It does, I think, satisfy some need, I think, some niche of a public school that a normal public school can't help. But it's not the answer to school choice. Like, go your kid in Montana right now going to a charter school, I don't think it's going to do you a whole lot, in my own opinion. But I do think that with micro schools coming on, and I love that legislation doesn't really know what to do with it right now. I mean, we're just considered to be a non-public school. And so kids are basically registered homeschool, and we have free choice to do what we want with them in a way, And I think that that is a beautiful thing because it allows people like me to try these new models without being handcuffed or feeling like I'm not doing something right or I
Yeah.
have to do, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so that's interesting too, because I know some Acton Academies run as programs where the students are technically considered homeschoolers, but they attend full-time as a full-time
Mhm.
schooling alternative. In other states, Acton Academies are registered private schools, and it often depends on state and local regulations around what is a private school, what is homeschooling. So for you, you're set up as a program for homeschoolers, but they're able to come 5 days a week. Is that how it works?
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah,
mean, if you will, I mean, I'm registered a micro school. But if you will, I'm a glorified homeschool co-op, if you will. I mean, imagine you got homeschool families that want to bring their kids to a place and have somebody guide them, right, in learning. That's technically what we are. Although we are that with amazing standards and the whole
sure.
Acton model. So we are a Monday through Friday.
Yeah,
But the beautiful thing too is because of this continuous learning plan that we have and this badge plan that the kids know they have to achieve badges through academic work to graduate from that studio to the next studio, from elementary to middle school to high school. So even if families like go travel and want to be gone for a month or 2 months, it's okay. I mean, their kid is still learning as they would at homeschool, on a continuous thing. They're just missing that kind of day-to-day interaction with the kids and whatnot. That would be the downfall, but they can still be part of the school, and it's cool like that.
Yeah, and I think it's that freedom and flexibility that's attracting more families to homeschooling and to micro schools, whether those micro schools again are private schools or homeschool collaboratives. But your families are legally considered in Montana to be homeschoolers.
Correct. Yep, they're
Yeah,
registered
yeah.
homeschool with our county superintendent. Yep.
Got it. Got it. So what is the future? I know you already have your middle school, you're talking about your high school.
Yeah.
What is your sense for your growth trajectory with Bozeman Innovation Academy?
Yeah, by the way, when you're a public educator, nowhere in my education have I ever learned to be a businessman. So I consider myself I'm just a horrible businessman. But I follow with my heart. And so what is my projection or like, I have no clue. I think to be honest with you, I have a lot of parents. I look at this year as my like crucial year. I got to get past this one. Even though 9 students is great, that's not bringing in a ton of income. So as a business, as a family man, it creates a challenge, but that's life. And I like that challenge. The goal though would be to get this elementary studio up to probably like, I think I can get somewhere in the teens to 20 people next year would be really cool. The middle school, I know I've talked to a lot of families who are just waiting for their kid to hit that middle school age and then they want to come over. Well, that's cool too. I feel like the middle school can probably get up to like 10 or so. You know what I mean? So I feel like I could get to like 25 to 30 kids here by next year. And then it's growing from there. I got to grow a high school because the kids will be ready for it and see how we call it a launch pad in the Acton model. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. The ultimate goal is to be, and this is what Acton really recommends business wise and to help your school, to have two pre-K studios. They're called Spark Studios, sparking interest. So we have like basically two pre-Ks. They feed into two elementary studios that we have. And then those two elementaries will feed into a middle school. And then that middle school feeds our high school. And that's kind of this ideal Acton plan to keep a healthy tribe together.
Got it. Okay, so as we wrap up, Rusty, I have sort of two questions for you. Do have two
Mhm.
different audiences. The first is parents. If parents are listening and are maybe dissatisfied with a traditional school environment, or maybe their kid isn't quite kindergarten age and they're wondering about something else, what would you say to them to help maybe alleviate some of their fears about choosing an unconventional educational model?
I would say to alleviate their fear, it's okay to try something new. You really got to take a look at what it means to learn or like to be educated. I mean, is it really our math and our science and our history and PE class and all these things that kids have to go through to learn and be this whole person? Because that's really all they're getting. So with our model, changing the focus to be learner driven to where the kids are empowered. Like you have to view them as a genius and being able to hold themselves and each other accountable. Which don't you want your kid to be held that way? If you ask a family, by the way, like when your kid graduates high school, what do you want from them? What kind of traits or qualities you want? And it's never like, I want a 4.0 in calculus. It's always like, I want them to be a good person. I want them to be like passionate in life. It's these character traits. So in my mind, if you can get parents to look that way, the Acton model is the best way because all about kids experiencing, like actually getting the power, the say, and the voice to like make recommendations here and to state things when they're not right here. So they're learning how to be these civilized people in the best way possible. They're driven to get their badge plan done. It's just something that happens naturally, and so learning academically happens naturally. And we took standardized tests like the other kids do, and our kids actually grew to grade level. Like when I first got them, they weren't at grade level. A lot of these kids were like Montessori and some homeschool, some public school. They weren't grade level by any means, but they all got to grade level, and some are like way advanced already. And it's not
Mm,
like we did anything different. I'm not saying that we're magical. It's just we give kids the time and space to teach themselves, and they're
mm.
learning. And based off of our standardized tests, we're doing more, I think, already than what public schools are doing. And your kid will learn, but they're really going to learn to be good people. And that's the quality of it, you know.
Great. Now for your advice for prospective founders, if someone's listening and is thinking about maybe they're a public school teacher, thinking about leaving to launch their own school, or they want to do something similar to what you're doing in their own community, what advice do you have for them?
Yeah, the model itself, you have to be ready. If you have a heart for education and you know that there's a model that can be better for your kids to learn, go for it. Find the Acton model. In my mind, it is the best model when it comes to experiencing life. I don't see another better way to actually teach. If you are an educator and you want to do an Acton, it's way different. It's not just like we're just creating this little school and we're replicating a school. Uh, the learner driven thing and being a Socratic guide is completely different than before. In fact, it challenges your very principles as an adult. You know, I find so many times I want to jump in and save kids, but that's not my role anymore, and I have to learn to like back up and just trust that things will work out. And if you can do that, the acting model is where you want to be.
Mm.
It's easy, like, you know, there's an application process, but really just shows you're driven, to show you're passionate and you believe in kids. You can start a school with very minimum income. Like if I were to talk numbers, you'd be like, holy cow, you are stupid. You know, like, yeah, I can't believe you took that jump with that amount of money. I had nothing, but here I am on year 2 and I got a new place and it's cool. So it doesn't take a lot. It's simple, but it's super powerful. And I recommend it to anybody that's really wanting to build an awesome, awesome education experience.
I love that. So,
And
Rusty,
one
if
more
my,
thing, real
yeah,
quick, it's not about you. Like for me, thinking I'm the adult and I want all this like publicity and stuff. Even after 1 year, I realized, man, this isn't about me. Really, it's about these kids and I'm about empowering them. So it's nice because now I don't have to get things ready. I just put on the kids to do it, you know?
yeah.
And that's the powerful thing.
So, if listeners and viewers want to find out more about Bozeman Innovation Academy, connect
Yeah.
with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, just go to our website. It's www.bozemaninnovationacademy.com. My email is rusty, R-U-S-T-Y, at bozemaninnovationacademy.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Just look for Bozeman Innovation Academy and you'll find us there.
Rusty Bowers, thank you so much for being on the LiberatED podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it.